Hi, this is Erin from Blossy Bee. Welcome to my channel. The plan for this video is to continue working on creating some mini art pieces that we started in the previous video. This is part 2 of 3, and in the previous video we went ahead and used nail polish and paint to prepare the surface of some mini timber squares so that we can get ready to apply some silicone stamps and watercolored pencils. So let's keep crafting. Now, my plan today is to use some stamps, and by stamps I mean the silicone stamps that you would use, for example, in card making. So the idea is that I'm going to choose a stamp and I'm going to stamp the outline, and then we're going to colour it in with watercoloured pencils. So I'll get started just with a plain piece, and I'll grab the silicone stamps. So the silicone stamps that I'm going to use today, I was thinking I might use this one. So I could look, you can use any of them, but I just thought I have to start somewhere, so we'll use this one. And I'm going to pop that onto my block as such, push it down. And then I'm just going to use, this is an ink I find is pretty rock solid and bomb proof. It's VersaFine and it's the Nocturne and pigment ink. So you just open it up, and then we're not looking for a super dark outline, but we are looking for an outline. So pop that on there. And then I'm going to just have a think about where I would like that pattern, and I think that probably gives me the best coverage. So it's going to be quite an abstract design. So I've got the leaves there, and this dries really quickly, which is one of the reasons I love it so much. And then, oh, that was me moving one of my nail polish containers, just stretching over. And we're going to use watercolour pencils. Now, I love watercolour pencils because they are very easy to use, but they also can give you two different looks, and I'll show you what I mean by that. Just going to tear off a little piece of paper here. So there's 3 ways that you can use watercolour pencils, and these are all jumbled at the moment because I've been playing madly with them, which has been a lot of fun. So you can use them, so these are mostly the Faber-Castell pencils. So you can use them just as a normal colouring in pencil, okay? Or you can use them in the same way, but you can then take a wet paintbrush and run that over, and you immediately get a watercolour effect. The other way of using them is by just dipping the nib into water and then drawing while the tip is wet. And that third way, you get a much more intense colour. The second way, you get a very, obviously a watercolour effect. and the first way is just like a coloured pencil effect. So that's why I really like these. Now, when I'm working with small projects, I really do like to keep them quite sharp, but, you know, not so sharp that you end up with a tip that's going to break as soon as it touches the surface. So my idea for these is to create sort of look, they're not going to look like any plant that's ever existed, because they're going to, it's coming straight out of my mind. So I'm going to just start closest to the stem with this sort of pink, almost, what would you call it, like a mulberry sort of a colour. I'm not going for anything flash. I am really just quite simply doing my best to colour between the lines. I'm trying to summon my inner child and just lay some colour down. So again, not looking for perfection at all. And I'm just going to go quite quickly for the purposes of this video. And you can definitely go over the black. That is not a problem as well. Now, I don't own one, but if you have a stamping folder, I would love to get one. I've been eyeing them off lately, but a little bit out of my budget at the moment. If you do have a stamping folder, then that allows you to position your substrate, so either your card or your timber, whatever you're going to be stamping onto, and keeping it in exactly the same position. So the advantage of that is that after you have done something like this, you could then restamp over the top. Now that restamping could be just with black again to give it a more definitive outline. It could be with a contrasting colour or a metallic colour, or it could even be with a clear ink, so that you can then go in and do a embossing powder over the top. So lots of options. Okay, so this is what we're looking like at the moment. So it's just got that pink sort of mulberry colour, and I'm not sure if you can see, but the surface is very porous. So I'm just keeping that in mind when it comes to the water. Now that orange is sitting there looking very like, pick me, pick me. So I'm going to go in now just with some orange. And I'm not doing any technique at all apart from trying to keep it in the lines, and that's about it. Not blending or anything like that, because the water will do that for us. And I'm just conscious of the length of the video, so feel free to fast forward, put me on double speed, triple speed, whatever you need to do to get through. Okay, so there we go. So just super fast. So I've actually just left the ends bare, because that's where I want to be able to come in with the water. Okay, so I'll grab my brush. Bring it over here. I've just got a big drinking glass. The more water you have in your container, the more you can get away with with diluting it, which is good. Okay, I'm going to try and bring this a little bit closer so you can see. So I'm going to just go over, and I'm hoping you can see that that is turning into a watercolour paint effect. Now I'm going a bit backwards and a bit forwards, and I'm really not lost. So again, I'm going to go out this time, and you'll see it darkens when the water hits it. And I'm just going to go drag that colour to the edge like that. Now, this is the issue when you're working with unstained timber. See how the water is now leaching out into there. We're going to fix that, but it is something to consider if you're working on timber that isn't protected in some way. So you could spray it with varnish, you could do what we've done, which is use a variety of finishes on top. You can, what else could you do? You could sand it to a really, really fine grade. Probably just pop a bit of spray varnish on it. And there we go. So I'm just going to speed up now because I think you've got the basic idea. And of course, if you don't rinse your paintbrush off between pieces, then you are going to have more of a blended colour. If you would like to be extremely precise, you are going to clean your brush every time after you've touched a new colour. Okay. I'll just drag that down there and that one, and as I said, for the purpose of this video, I think that gives you a really good idea of what happens when you do this process onto untreated timber. Okay, so I'm going to pop that one over there just to dry. And as you can see, that's very quick, but you could, you know, it can be as elaborate as you want. So I'm just going to check. This is our Envy nail polish. So we're going to do exactly the same. I'm going to take my stamp and I'm going to take my ink and I'm going to ink the stamp. Now, a lot of my stamps I bought secondhand, and a lot of my inks too. It's not that expensive of a hobby crafting to get into, unless you want to go mad and have like a bazillion, and of course you're going to want to do that. But just to start off with, to see if you like it or not, you don't have to go that crazy. Okay, so we've applied that. What I did forget to show you, I'm so sorry, is that every time you use it, you need to clean it instantly. And I didn't clean it, and I can already see that dark outline. So it's a little bit harder to get off. All you need is just a water wipe or a damp cloth. Okay, so let's have a look at this one. So I would wear that just like that. Like, that is stunning. That background colour is just so pretty. Okay, so we'll take the same colours again so that it's a fair test. And I'll just start colouring. So already I can tell you that it is much more difficult to move the pencil. There's a lot more resistance. And as we all know, resistance is futile. Had to get that little pop culture quote in there. And the reason it's futile is because I'm just going to keep going. I'm going to press a little bit harder. When you're working on this sort of timber, though, you do have to be careful you don't use too much pressure, because you can actually collapse that wood grain and gouge it. And yeah, that's probably not the look we're going for. Although, you know, different strokes for different folks. That might be, you might be going for the surface of a planet type of a thing, and that might be exactly what you want. Okay, gosh, my thumbs are feeling it now. I do love colouring, but I have to be careful how much of it I do with what grip, just so that doesn't get too painful. So it's definitely not going on as brightly or as evenly as before. So we'll grab the orange. I'll just give that a quick twist. And again, you are so welcome to just fast forward through this. It is a long video, I know, but I've got the house to myself today for a little while, so I can craft and talk and pretend that I'm sitting across the table from you all, which I honestly wish I was. I did have, I have had crafting buddies in the past, and boy oh boy, it's so much fun. All right, so gone ahead and done that orange, and now let's see how that nail polish reacts with the water. So we'll go in just gently. So as soon as we touch that pencil, it activates into the watercolour. Go down to the tip, like so. Okay, pretty good. So we're not getting any of that sort of leaking into the wood yet. Maybe not at all. And you don't have to choose something that's so teeny tiny and fine, obviously. I like sort of challenging myself a little bit. And funnily enough, I'm much more likely to do this sort of thing in daylight. If I'm crafting of a night, the bigger the better. We're talking elephant in front of a barn. I don't know about you guys, but my eyesight of an evening does not do as good a job as I wish. So I tend to do less fine detailed things of a night and leave those for when I've got a really good daytime opportunity to get natural light. Just makes the world of difference. Okay. Also find at night too, I'm a real night owl, and I'm often roam around the house and you know, doing different crafting and making, and I'm never as alert. I'd like to think I am. I'm just not. So it's much better, at least for me, when you're doing fiddly things, to do that during the day. Okay, so that's this one. Let's go off to the edge there. And again, that's looking quite pretty, but it's a lot more delicate, isn't it? It's not as in your face. All right, next one. Try and go a little bit faster now. So this one is our just very quite matte plain coloured nail polish. So again, we've got our stamp. We will ink accordingly and press down. we go. That was a bit dramatic, wasn't it? I'll grab a new wet one. The wet ones that I buy do vary from brand to brand. That's what we call baby washcloths or disposable baby washcloths in Australia. I think that's an actual brand name. It's one of those cases like, you know, you call a sticking plaster here a Band-Aid, you know, even though that's a particular brand. I just get ones that are just water. I avoid any that have got, you know, added lotions or anything that's added into it, because I don't want that affecting my molds or my resin or anything like that. Okay, so exactly the same thing. So this is going on, interestingly, much more like the original timber. So it's not resisting as much as the previous nail polish. Now the previous nail polish was quite a shiny one. This is quite a matte one, so I'd say that's the difference. And I'll just go through. I'm just going to get try and be faster and faster, which of course will end up meaning that I'm making mistakes, but I think you will get the idea of what I'm doing. Because I'm a STEM teacher and someone who's just naturally obsessed with science, the scientific method of experiments is exactly this. So anytime that you do try out new things, if you use some of the same variables, we'll call them. So I'm using the same tin for each of them, the same pencils, the same water, the same brush, but what I am changing is the what I'm putting it onto, and so that's where you get a scientific experiment, and it's the scientific method. So it's trying to reduce the amount of things that could change the outcome so that you've got a more control. So what I haven't factored in, of course, is the fact that I can see the time on the video and that I know it's getting very long, and that is making me a little bit anxious to move faster. And I also don't want to bore any of you to total comatose state. So that is a variable that I did not take into account, but I think it will probably work out okay. I don't know what that side bit is there, but there we go. All right, so I'll do that one quickly with water. And we'll go in that way. So again, you can see that those watercolour pencils are activating. Now I've used really expensive watercolour pencils. I've used very cheap watercolour pencils. And although, you know, the more expensive ones are lovely to use, honestly, if you're just doing a little bit every now and then, or if you're just starting, I would, you know, err on the side of a budget and just get a set of, you know, 12 pencils and a decent pencil sharpener and just have a play. You know, I think a lot of us dive into new ways of crafting just so head first, me included, oh my goodness. And then you straight away think, oh, I have to have this and I have to have that. And then I saw such and such do this on the YouTube channel and I've got to have that or my life won't be worth living. So there is something to be said for taking it easy and just figuring out whether you actually get any pleasure and enjoyment from it. Some of you I know do craft for a living, to make a living from, and that's even more so, because who wants to spend a heap of money on items that you don't even know if people are going to want to buy. So this is one of those really good entry-level type crafts that, you know, you can give it a go, probably well and truly under $10. So, all right, so that's that one. Now, the next one here is our holographic one. I will quickly do that, exactly the same. Stamp, stamp. Now, I can see, I'm probably going to go ahead and show you what happens. I've overstamped that. So I've gone down hard on the edge there, and I've also got it on there. Actually, no, I can't bear it. I'm going to rub that off. What I was going to show you is that when you do that, you get, it's almost like a double thickness line, a blurred line, and it's not the worst thing in the world, but if you're trying to get, you know, some consistency in a project, it's quite easy just to remove it and start again. All right, so this one is the holographic nail colour in Spectrum. And wipe that one off. When you see real paper crafters and people, when I say real, I mean, you know, they're deadly serious about it. I just love it. And I often go, we've got a wonderful craft store in the Greater Hobart area called Image Plus Superstore. And it's a family-run crafting store. And I'm not sure if the reason why, I think I always thought it was just the cost, but a few years ago they closed down their brick and mortar store, which was just this most giant big space, just absolutely jam-packed with every, you know, scrapbooking, paint, just it was wonderful. And they closed it down, and they then developed like a travelling model, an online store and a travelling model. And you can look them up, Image Plus Superstore, I think it is. I hope I haven't mixed that up. But so what they do now is that every so often they hire a community hall, and often in, you know, a little bit out of the way communities, and then they run a 1 or 2 day craft pop-up shop event, and it's just wonderful. But the most hilarious thing, and I don't want to offend anyone with this at all, but if you go fairly early on the first day, when they are getting everything out of the boxes still, there are some die-hard crafters who are there, and you really don't want to get in their way, because she gets in all the latest stamps and, you know, all the big names, and they come out in themes and everything all the time. And so these are often the places when they will be released to the public. And yeah, these people know what they are doing, and they know what they want. And I find it is just better for everyone's health and safety to stand back and let them have at it, because they know what they're doing. Whereas I go into a place like that and I just wander around with my mouth open and, you know, imagining all the things I could do if only I was a millionaire. Even if I was a millionaire, a lot of that's way outside of my crafting scope and capabilities. But it's yeah, I love going to them. So I know that there's levels in some crafting, just like we've got, you know, many of us have learned how resin craft from some of the big names, and, you know, we look at the things that they do and we're just in awe, and, you know, the materials they have, or the, you know, the opportunities they're given by some of the companies to try new products and everything. It's beyond anything I could ever imagine, and I'm so grateful that I get to watch and learn along with them and with any of you, you know, that are generous enough to share your time and, you know, energy creating these videos for us all to watch. It's a truly amazing time to be alive from that perspective. There's no more really crafting in isolation, is there? So that's that one. And now we are going to use the one which was the Jo Sonja's acrylic paint. Getting towards the end. There we go. And I'm definitely getting tired, I can tell my hands, because I'm getting a bit not as consistent with things. Speaking of consistency though, I think that's one of the reasons I love these stamps so much, is because even though I do love pretending to draw, I don't know, tracing, outlining, seeking inspiration from elsewhere, what have you. When you use these stamps, they are just so jolly consistent. You've got the same outline every single time. Oh, that feels amazing. So that is probably so far the second nicest surface to draw on. I'm including the raw timber as probably the nicest, because that's that has a great feel. But then of course the raw timber has its drawbacks with the fact that the surface is porous, and so whatever you put onto it, if it's a liquid, it can actually spread out and leach into the fibres. So this is feeling really nice, and it's a really nice sort of consistent surface as well in the appearance. And yes, I'll be interested to see how the water goes on this one. Okay, so we'll switch over to our orange and just quickly give these a little bit of an orange zhuzh. There we go. Now these stamps are very reusable, so you know you can buy these stamps for very cheaply, just a couple of dollars at some stores, and especially if you buy just one sort of image rather than a sheet or a set, and they can last you just such a long time. If you look after them, you will have them for a very long time. Okay, so that's going on okay. I can tell I'm getting, I'm nowhere near as precise as I was trying to be in the beginning now. My hands are getting a bit tired, and I'm just starting to feel a little bit over it. Do you ever feel that way? You start something and you're like, oh, get me to the end of this sooner rather than later. Now that's interesting, that water actually pooled on that one, and when I tipped the timber, it dripped off. That's okay. Not going for anything that's perfect here. We're going for a sort of a rustic watercolour look. You could put the adjective rustic in front of any of the crafts I do, and I'd be very happy with that. Oh dear. All right, this one is the gel matte. Pop that ink on there. And of course these ink pads as well, once you've got them, they are refillable. So it really can work out to be quite an economical craft, because you're just using such minimal amounts, and you know, you're buying items that you can just reuse over and over and again. And of course, once you buy your plate, you can use that for everything. Once you buy your ink, that can be used with every future stamp that you buy. So it's all compatible. Oh, I'm not liking this at all. Now, I didn't sharpen that, which was a bit naughty. How can I describe this? It just doesn't feel... what it is, I think, is it looks like it has a good coating, but it doesn't feel like it has a good coating. So I can still feel the texture of the wood underneath, which is not a, you know, a bad thing. It's just not what I really was expecting. That's okay. At least we know now. And the colour's going on okay though. Now, I'm getting some dark coming off those, is it coming off the lines? That's very interesting. That hasn't happened with any other surface that I've used. So I'm wondering if that's because there is an ingredient in that is sort of a solvent of sorts that can dilute other mediums down. All right, let's see. If I'm right, then we could get quite a lot of sort of blurring, but no, we're not. That's interesting, isn't it? Okay, let's have a look here. No. Oh, I forgot that one altogether. You, sir, can be orange because I've run out of motivation. The other thing I love about these stamps too is that you can layer them over each other. You can use multiple stamps on the one project, and that's a really good thing. So look, it's pretty, but there's this sort of blacky stuff going on there. I'm not quite sure whether it's because I haven't washed my hands in between. That could be the case as well. And then, just before we finish, I wanted to show you what happens. That's got a bit dark on it, doesn't matter. When you do the wet pencil method. grots, grots and more grots. Alright, so for this one, I'm going to, instead of going on with a dry pencil, I'm going to dip it in a bit of water, and then I'm going to colour in while it's wet. Now you can tell quite easily when it stops being wet enough, because it'll, that was a nuisance, because it'll sort of start dragging on the surface a bit. So it goes on, this is super slippery and very intense colour to start off with while it's wet. It does fade, obviously, when it's the water is evaporating. Yeah, so I can feel there that I ran out of water and that I was just down to the normal lead. They're not lead anymore, are they? The normal watercolour pencil. Okay. So it just gives you 3 different ways at least. I'm sure other people know of a bazillion more ways to use watercolour pencils, but just gives you that little bit more flexibility. Now this is massively leaching into the fibres of the wood, which we knew it would because it's what it did in the first one. Okay, and then once I've done that, I just always sit them out. So I've just dabbed that there. Just sit them out to dry off naturally. And I haven't found any difference in these after I've used them for a wet application compared to if I've only ever just used them dry and then gone in and used a paintbrush. So it hasn't damaged the ones I've used anyway, so just, you know, be careful when it's you. And of course you are able to blend a little bit once you've got that water on there, and if you've got a second colour you can just go over them. And it is really easy to tell when you've got that shift from being wet enough to no, we need a bit of water. So again, the main purpose of this video was just to sort of show you a couple of things. It's really to be able to craft on a budget, to make use of things that you might have laying around the house, like, you know, the nail polishes, or that, you know, you might be able to put a little post on your local Facebook group and just give a shout out to see if anyone's got any that they're not using anymore. And yep, so there's that one. So as you can see, I'll just hold this one up compared to the putting it on dry, and there is quite a difference. So you get a much more intense colour putting it on wet, but with both of those you've got that quite huge you know, spreading out and staining. Okay, so I'll just pack this up and then bring them over. This one I'll just show you. So this one I probably wouldn't go ahead and do that sort of a print on, but I would do just the black. In fact, I'll show you that. And Okay, clean that off. So with this, I would be more likely to just use it like that and to go around the edge with a colour and to resin over it, or you could go in and put some little rhinestones or things like that. Okay, so I'm going to clean this off so I can show you everything we've done. And then because of how massively long this video is, I'm going to finish these off in the next video, hopefully, and show you how we can protect our artwork and how we can finish these off to become beautiful pieces. Thank you so much for watching this second part of the 3-part series. In the final video, we're going to finish these items off, and I hope you can join me over there now. See you soon.